let me just give you this, okay? I'm going to pause right there. Years ago, see, I was a student at Crown College in Knoxville, Tennessee. I was there from 2002 to 2007. There was a man across town named Bob Bevington, and he pastored a church. I don't remember the name of the church, but Bob Bevington died years ago. And, he pastored there. I think it was kind of almost downtownish Knoxville. And he was famous in the sense that he took a big stand against the Billy Graham Crusades when they came to town, because Billy Graham Crusades wanted to borrow everybody's buses so that they could bus people in and, do shuttles and ferries and stuff like that. And Bob Bevington refused, and the director of the Billy Graham Crusades called him and says, "Hey, I heard that you're refusing to participate in the Billy Graham Crusade." And he said, "Well, yeah." He said, "I have a question before I participate." He says, "Is Johnny Cash born again?" And Bob Bevington told me, he said that they were using Johnny Cash to draw crowds before Johnny Cash even professed Christ. And so in a sense, that would be like, hey, let's get, let's get Post Malone to come preach at a Spencer's, or come sing and perform, his music at a Spencer Smith gospel preaching rally. And so Post Malone, let's just say I'm friends with Post Malone, and I say, "Hey, Post, come see me, dog, over here in Shepherdsville, Kentucky. I want you to do a free concert, and then I'm going to preach the gospel." Some of y'all would have a serious problem with that. You think that's nuts. Well, it is nuts, but that's what Billy Graham was doing. He was doing that with Johnny Cash. Now, thankfully, later on, Johnny Cash professed faith in Christ and all that. Is Johnny Cash still alive? I don't even know. But that's what he was doing. And Bob Bevington took a stand and says, "No, I'm not going to participate in a meeting in which you're bringing Johnny Cash in and you're going to use him to draw crowds so that Billy Graham can preach the gospel." And Bob Bevington actually knew the Parton family. He led one of her brothers to the Lord. I think there was like 11 kids in the Parton family, and Dolly was one of them. He actually led one of Dolly Parton's brothers to the Lord, and this brother had a good testimony of salvation and whatever. But he told me, and this was back in 2007, he says, "Dolly Parton has zero evidence that she's saved. She shows zero evidence that she's saved." And I've always kind of kept that in mind. Dolly Parton showed zero evidence that she was saved. Now, this is an old interview in which she talks about, let's see, what year was this? This was 2019. She talks about growing up and going to church. And I think she had a Pentecostal background. And the title of the article is "She's Alive." Now, I'm going to show you some of the things he says, or Dolly Parton says here. And, let's see here, it says right here, "Yeah, we grew up in a fanatical church, Pentecostal holy roller, but I still love it. In fact, I'm doing a show, just sold a show called Sister Shine for Lifetime, where I'm playing a female evangelist. I always wanted to do it, and it's just about a woman that kind of gets torn down because of the religion. But the hellfire damnation that we went through used to scare me to death, and I was too scared to. I didn't want to go up." So I guess she's referring in a roundabout way of people talking about dying and going to hell in this Pentecostal church, and she didn't want to go up and get saved. I guess that's what that means. I didn't want to go up. I was just scared of all that, and I used to pray. I just would pray for God to show himself to me or let me see what that was about, because I would say I would talk to him. Even then I would say it. I just scared me to death in the church, and it scares me. It's like I just don't want to be afraid of God, because then they say we're supposed to fear him, and they say he's our Father, and we're supposed to, and I was just confused with all that. Now, that is essentially... that's essentially the same testimony that Katy Perry gave years ago. Katy Perry says, "I didn't understand why God was mad at me," and she said, "I didn't understand all that." And really, that's it. What that means is she didn't understand why she was under the judgment of God. And for you to understand the gospel, you have to understand why you need the gospel, and you have to understand why Jesus died on the cross for you. You have to understand like what he was trying to do. He was saving you from your sin, and that's what it took. And she says, when we saw people go up and get saved and speak in tongues and do the whole thing, she would always feel like, why is that not happening for me, and what am I doing wrong? I never felt like I was saved. This is 2019. This was before COVID. I never felt like I was saved. I never felt like I was saved, that I was getting what they were seen to be getting or supposed to be getting, because I just didn't feel like I had reached that place. Yikes. And see, this is where this interview takes a very bizarre turn, a really weird turn. And I want you to just read this. This is her own words, okay? It says, after she said she never felt like she could get saved and all this hellfire and damnation stuff, she says, but then there was this old abandoned church down the hill that was, and she said, describe the church if you don't mind. And this is so wild. This is her own testimony in 2019. To this day, it stands out in my mind like it happened. There was this old church at the foot of the hill where we were living, and it just had an old piano in it. All the windows were busted out. People used to go down there, drink, make out. There were dirty pictures painted on the walls. She was 12 years old. She would wander into that abandoned church, and as she writes in her autobiography, she would fixate on those pictures. Dolly said this. This is Dolly Parton's own words. I spent a lot of time looking at these dirty pictures on the wall, studying the way the sexual organs had been drawn out in that time, trying to add to them. You would doodle on the drawings. And Dolly said, oh yeah, I just love that old church, and every time I go down there is just a piece in that church. Dolly Parton is speaking about this old abandoned rundown church with literal nudie pictures on the wall, and she says that's where she found peace. She would stare at naked pictures on the wall, dirty pictures, and she would study the organs, the sexual organs of the dirty pictures on the wall in an abandoned church building, and she says she found peace in that church. This explains a lot. And then she said, I started singing in that place. I could feel the echo and the bigness and loved to sing in it. And she said, my voice sounded so good in there, but I would take that old piano, I'd bang around, and there was a few old keys left on it. I even took a string and rigged it up on a board, and there was kind of like sounded like some Middle Eastern sound. It was just an old droning sound. So she said there was this one picture that was in the church, first staring at the old dirty pictures, then singing for a couple hours after that. I was just, and this is Dolly's own testimony, I was just praying and praying and praying, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, as she's looking at naked people on the wall. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures, he leadeth me beside the still waters, he restoreth my soul. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. I was just praying because I thought I need to know, and I just need a feeling I don't have. I need safety I don't have. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of the life. And I just remember being in that church and I felt something. Okay, now look, she's playing a Middle Eastern sound, what she calls a droning sound, which is right here with some old guitar string, looking at naked pictures of people on a wall in an old abandoned church, and she's praying. I guess she's reciting Psalm 23, and she says this, and I just remember being in that church, and I felt something. I remember it just came to me. I didn't hear it like a voice. It came to me as a feeling that was strong as a voice, though, and I felt like I found God that day, and I felt like I knew who I was that day. Oh, my soul. What a freak show. I found real truth here. In one place, I found God, music, and sex. My fascination. This explains everything about who Dolly Parton is. This explains everything about who this woman is. Now, evangelicals, you people are preaching this woman into heaven. This is 2019. This is a pre-COVID, clear-minded woman saying these things. This is her testimony. And if you are a serious Christian, I don't know how in the world you can accept this woman as your sister in Christ. That is one of the most insane testimonies I've ever heard in my life. That's nuts. I mean, wow. And we'll see the fruit that this apparent conversion gave her. And there's so much here. I mean, she says, it's kind of perfect in the way that you found that with dirty pictures on the wall and a busted up piano, it somehow feels like all the Dolly things. Yeah, the sexuality, the spirituality, the sensuality, and the music, all that is me. And I remember when I left that old church, I was still walking around the road back up to our house, and Vonnie Owens, one of my old uncles that owned a sawmill up the road, he came down, and I was just jumping, I was just flying, I was just jumping up and down, I was skipping around, and he said, where are you going on this fine day? And I said, I'm on the road to paradise. So sex, music, and God has been the spiritual religion that Dolly Parton has practiced her whole life. And this is, she said this happened to her when she was 12. Looking at pornographic images on a wall in an old busted up, broken down church playing some sort of droning ohm noise. Those of you who watch Third Adam 4 will know what that is. Walking out of that place saying, I met God, and my whole spirituality is God, music, and sex. Boy, oh boy, there's a lot here. This is a gold mine. I want to show you this. This is what Dolly Parton says about God, and this is how she defined God. This is an article here. What is this? This is from Mix art from 2026. And she says this: everybody thinks of God as a different thing. To me, God is that greater, higher energy, that greater, wiser wisdom. That it's that thing that all of us that we have to draw from. I've always trusted God and trusted myself, which to me are intertwined. I'm a creative person, and what gifts I have come from that divine place that I try to tap into. So what have I got to be afraid of? Guys, this is mystery religion. This is New Age talk. Dolly Parton's a witch. That's exactly, this is the talk of an esoteric sorceress. I just tap into that divine energy. Well, I mean, that's the same stuff Aleister Crowley says. It's the same thing. Here's an old article, and this is actually a dissenter article. I think it's really good. And if you don't, I recommend you read the Dissenter every now and then. They got some good stuff here. It was a bizarre view of eternity that really cast doubt in any credible profession of faith she may have had. When asked about her view of death, she replied, "You don't really know, you just hope." She's talking about like what happens when you die. You don't really know, you just hope. I think we're recycled, and if nothing else, we go back into that great flow of divine energy, and hopefully we spread ourselves around in other wonderful ways. That's basically Star Wars. That's New Age. Dolly Parton's religion was the religion of the New Age. And this is actually a quote from this Christianity Today article that you got to pay $150 to unlock. And, you know, Dolly Parton's America, you can just kind of see it right there. What is the theology of Dolly Parton? Yikes. And so I just throw that out. That's the source of all that. Okay, so this is extra. Dolly Parton and her Christian and gay following. This is an article from 2014 where Dolly Parton says, and I quote, my gay fans know that I completely love and accept them as I do all people, Parton continues. I've struggled enough in my life to be appreciated and understood. I've had to go against all kinds of people through the years just to be myself. I think everybody should be allowed to be who they are and to love who they love. I don't think we should be judgmental. Lord, I've got enough problems of my own to pass judgment on somebody else. That is absolute Alice Bailey right there. Don't judge. Don't take a stand on sin. Let people do what they want to do. Leave it all alone. Who am I to judge? Judging is the arch sin of all sins. And this is what the end times deception, this is what the false Christianity of the end times is. This is what Hillsong taught. This is what Carl Lentz was into. These people are not Christians. It sounds nice and sweet and lovey-dovey and I'm just for everybody. It sounds that way, but that is the religion of the Antichrist. This is the religion of hell. Let's go to another article here. This is, I'll show you this one right here. This is from Billboard magazine. What is the date on this one? 2014. Dolly Parton Q&A, the country legend on 50 years in Nashville, why she supports her gay fans. Let's go down here to what the article says. The question is, Dollywood attracts a lot of church groups, but it also become a draw for the LGBT community. What does that say about you? It's a place for entertainment, a place for all families, period. It's for all that. But as far as the Christians, if people want to pass judgment, they're already sinning. The sin of judging is just as bad as any other sin they might say somebody else is committing. I try to love everybody. That's New Age. That's nonsense. Like if I were doing Dr. Matters conferences across the world and I had a bunch of Jehovah's Witnesses show up every week and say, hey, we love this. This is amazing. I would wonder what I was doing wrong. That would really bother me. But that's, that speaks for itself. Now, this is a Vanity Fair article from years ago. What is this? This is a 2016 article. And you've had a long-standing appeal with the LGBT community with the current climate. And what roles does LGBT play in who you would want as president? This is when Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump were running against each other. And Dolly Parton said this, I think we always have to have someone that we can love, respect, and appreciate everyone for who they are. God made us all and made us all different, made us all special, and we have the right to be true to ourselves. That's like saying God made me gay, so I have the right to stay gay. That's what she's teaching. Whosoever said that wonderful thing, to thine own self be true, there's never a truer statement, because if you try to be something different than who you are, you're never going to be happy. I think it's up to us, especially as good people, especially as Christian people, those of us that claim to be. We're supposed to be accepting and loving. I think God is the judge of all of us. I think he made us all and he loves us all. And I think in this government too, all men are created equal. And I think men just represent humanity, not just the word man. Okay, so she goes on and just, she says, well, if you're made that way, just go ahead and do that. That's fine. And that's not good. Now, this is where it gets wild. Dolly Parton says that if things were different, if she was born in a different life or something like that, that she would have been a drag queen. I wish I was joking. This is true. This is I'll just pull this up for you. This is the Mix article that we showed you a little while ago. And here's what she said here. Someone said that you're the book lady, you're involved with these kids in education. Are you going to tone down your look? And I said, why should I? It's all all of that made all of this, put me in this position. Don't you get it? I might look like a phony now, but if I start changing things, then I would be a phony. This is who I really am. I see no reason to think that I have to look like a school teacher. I'd rather look like a whore. I'm getting the job done. It shouldn't matter. That's what she said. People are funny about changing. It's like a version of Harper Valley PTA. And this is what Dolly said. That's true. A lot of my look came out of a little country girl's idea of what glamour should be, but then it got to be really comfortable, and I liked it just how people like to dress up. I've always said that if I hadn't been a woman, then I'd have blankety blank been a drag queen. Is this woman a Christian? You going to tell me that this woman is born again? You going to tell me that this woman has a biblical worldview about anything? Of course, she was a leftist in some. She tried to be politically neutral, but the social cause of the day, she was for that. She stood with Black Lives Matter and all this stuff like that. Now, there are always going to be these weird angles, but. And I'm going to throw a bone to the hyper conspiratorial people here, but she was drinking liquor with Jennifer Aniston and a few others, and she did a toast to the god Azael. You can hear it right here. I'll just play it for you.
To the goddess sound, oh Lordy. To the goddess sound, oh Lordy.
You hear what she said?
To the goddess sound, oh Lordy.
All right, so. You can hear she says to the god Azael. Now, Azael is actually a demon from the book of Enoch. Now, of course, I read the book of Enoch this year. I don't think it's scripture, but for her to cite that is very interesting. Why would anybody who's a born-again Christian who says that in a different life she would have been a drag queen and whatever, and then she's saying to the god Azazel as she's taking shots with other very dangerously involved in the occult celebrities, the evidence against Dolly Parton's conversion is overwhelming. Overwhelming. And the thing is, you gotta, this is what I've been telling people for years, you have to go beyond the very carefully crafted public persona that these people are given, that is given to you by these people's handlers. You have to understand, like, if you're going to be a movie star, if you're going to be a country star, the record companies and the movie companies actually have people around you to protect you from looking, kind of being outside the box of what this image should be. They send you to school to learn how to behave like a rock star, to behave like a movie star. They send you to school to teach you how to act in a certain way so that you learn how to fit in this box. And Dolly Parton knew, in a sense, she knew how to appeal to the secular crowd, but she also knew how to appeal to this Christianese Southern culture crowd. And the evidence against her conversion is overwhelming. I hate this. I hate even saying this, but the world loves to deceive people. And Satan is a master at what he does. So is Dolly Parton in heaven? Well, according to her own conversion testimony, there's no way. There's no way. I mean, the dirty pictures, playing the Om with the Eastern sound on a string, and then having some sort of experience where she said, I was locked in, and it was God, music, and sexuality. That's not a biblical conversion. That's not what the Bible even talks about. To say that I got saved, but then I lived this lifestyle forever and ever and ever and have these goofy views about God being some spirit energy of the universe is insane. It's completely insane. And I pray that everybody would just, like, do your research, people. Look at the doctrine behind what these people are saying. I showed you the receipts. I showed you what these people said. And I just pray that you would wake up. Guys, wake up. The deception is so thick these days. It's almost, it's wigging me out how bad all this is. Now, guys, if you go to our channel and watch something called Third Adam, please go watch Third Adam 1, 2, 3, 3X, and 4. We've got these films here explaining to you the new age, explaining to you what is happening in this end times deception. A lot of it has to do with women. Really, to be honest with you, and thank you for making this far into this video, Dolly Parton is a country music Southern Jezebel. Southern Belle Jezebel. She was a harlot. She was like, she made jokes about her appearance all the time. But she covered it in this sweet, charming Southern girl motif and this personality, and that's why people bought it. She was as wicked as she could be. And if she's born again, goodness gracious, everybody's born again. So please keep this stuff in mind, folks, when you discern these things. Just because somebody claims to be a Christian does not mean that they actually are. God bless you, friend. Thank you for watching this video. If this video is a blessing to you, please take the time to smite the like button and subscribe to this channel. We do videos like this all the time, and we pray that God would help you and pray that God would bless you and use you for His glory. And God bless you, friend. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.